All right, last question of this section. Are you ready? So we're finding the standard equation of this ellipse up here. We're going to find the center, the vertices, and the foci and draw the graph. So this will be really similar to example 2. So let's take our equation. Okay, so it's going to be helpful to us if we can organize our x's together and our y's together. So we have 36x squared plus 144x, and then I'm going to move my 9y squared and my negative 54y minus, actually let me move that 99 to the other side. So very similar to example 2, you'll notice that we have coefficients in front of our squared terms. In order to complete the square, those two actually should not be there. We need to factor them out. So in this first group, I'm going to factor out a 36. So in looking at these two, these are what I'm factoring from, right? I do recognize they also have an x in common. I do not want to factor out the x's. In fact, I want this to stay an x squared term, and I want there to be an x here. Even though x is part of a greatest common factor, or a GCF, I only want to take out the number. That's really important. So as we go through this, if we take 144 divided by 36, we end up with 4. Okay? So this is plus 4x, and then we're going to complete the square in just a moment, so I'm going to put plus box. We're going to leave ourselves some space. Very similar to that, plus 9, and we're going to factor 9 out of these two terms right here. So we get y squared minus 6y, and we're going to say plus squiggly line there, right? So on both of these, I want there to be a squared and a regular term, a squared and a regular term. Those need to stay that way so that we can factor in a little bit. This is equal to 99. Over here we have plus 36 times whatever number ends up in that box. Over here we have plus 9 times whatever number ends up in the squiggly empty space. Okay, so here we're going to end up with 4 over 2 squared, which is 2 squared. That gives us 4 in both of those empty spots. Okay, then we're working with negative 6 over 2 squared, which is negative 3 squared, 9. So that's a 9, and that's a 9. Okay, so let's clean it up a tiny bit. The next line is going to look like 36. And if we factor this, we'll get an x plus 2, all squared, plus, now this group, 9 sits out front, and we're going to complete this, or we're going to factor our completed square, y minus 3, all squared, equal to, and let's add all this up together. So we've got 99 plus, and actually let's 36 times 4. So that plus 99 plus 81 gives us 324. From here down, it's essentially the same as what we did in our last question. So we want to divide to make this 1, which means everyone else has to also be divided. So that leaves us with, if we divide by 36, we end up with 9. So x plus 2 squared over 9 plus, dividing these by 9 now, we should end up with 36. Okay? Oh, I did that the same way. 324 divided by 9. 36. Okay? So this becomes y minus 3 squared over 36 equal to 1. Okay? So now that it's here, we can set up, we can actually figure out what's the center and lead us towards what are the vertices, and we can set the rest of this up. So I'm going to draw my axes so we can start to graph this. 3, 2, hopefully leaving myself enough room. And one other thing we should do, maybe before we start to graph it, y and x, is we should identify what our major and our minor axes are here. So we did this in the last couple questions as well. This here is 3 squared, and this here is 6 squared. Between those two numbers, 3 and 6, this one's larger, right? Which means that we're going to stretch vertically because it sits underneath the y, right? So we go to our center, which is going to be, let's see this okay? Center is going to be, remember it's opposite, so -2, +3, so that's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, center, okay? We're going to go 6 up and down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 takes us to the number 9. Again, lining it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 takes us down to -3. Those are our two vertices. We can graph our covertices from here. So that's 3 in either direction. 1, 2, 3, number 1. 1, 2, 3 takes us to -5, which would be here. And again, those line up on that minor axis. You don't necessarily have to label what they are on the graph. If you find it helpful, I mean, go for it. What's the harm, right? But it's not maybe mandatory. So we can find those coordinates for the vertices. We're at -2 and 9, and we're at -2, -3. And you'll see again, our x values stayed the same because y is what changed. That's where the stretch happened. We can also write out our covertices. Again, not absolutely mandatory, but it does give us a good understanding. Those are at -5, 3, and 1, 3. Okay, you'll notice that the center is halfway between those covertices. It's also halfway between the two vertices. So if you're given a question, they don't happen very often, but if you're given a question where you either know this distance or this length, if you cut this major axis in half and you stay in line with whatever that major axis is, it'll take you to the center, okay? So the last thing that we need to find are those foci, and that's going to be found using our equation c squared is a squared minus b squared. Okay, so in our case, we've got c squared. Our larger is 36 minus our smaller, which is 9. 36 minus 9 gives us 27. And that means c is equal to the square root of 27, which we can clean up because that's 3 times 9, and 9's a perfect square. So we can write this as 3 square root 3, which is approximately square root 27, 5.20. Again, I'm rounding up. Okay, so if we take that information back up here, we can see, there we are, we can see if we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a little bit past that, that's your one focus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a little past that, that's your other focus. As always, connect those points, trying to draw a little straighter than I have been. Not very successful. This should probably be a little more curved. hit my arm a bit. Again, another great reason to write in pencil, not in pen. The only thing missing over here would be what are the actual coordinates for the foci. So again, we're moving along the y-axis. So we're staying at -2 for x. We're going to have 3 plus 3 square root 3, 3 minus, -2, 3 minus 3 square root 3, or if you'd like, you can write -2, and we have our decimal for 3 square root 3, right? So 3 plus that answer, 8, which lines up with what we've got, 8.20, and -2, 3 minus that value, -2.20. And that agrees with what we're seeing on our graphi anyway. Okay, so again, the answers that we were looking for here, we were looking for the standard equation, that's this right here. Okay, we were looking for the center and the vertices, and we were looking for the foci. So again, you pick which of those formats you're more comfortable with, as well as the graph. And that's it. You've made it through 7.2. Make sure you do your homework and make sure you practice the next set of examples. Also take advantage of that discussion board, right? You want to give yourself the opportunity to talk some of these things out. We're using a different approach for the second half of the semester, so you want to make sure you're advocating for yourself and getting help and speaking up when you need that help, okay? I'm here to help you out. Let me know what's going on. I'll see you next week for our next set of questions. Have a good one. Stay safe.